As Nigeria celebrates its 64th independence anniversary tomorrow, not everyone is in a festive mood. While the country reflects on its journey since 1960, some citizens are preparing to take to the streets in what many describe as part 2 of the End Bad Governance protest. The planned protest raised key questions. Has Nigeria truly fulfilled the promise of independence? For many, the answer is no. Despite being the largest country in Africa with an enormous economy, it faces deep structural challenges. What makes this particular protest significant is that it comes at a time when the government is urging citizens to reflect on the strides the nation has made. For more on this, I'm joined in the studio by Honorable Clement Jimbo. He's a House of Representatives member representing Abak, Etim, Ika Federal Constituency in Akwa Ibom State. He's also the Deputy Chairman of the House Committee on National Planning and Economic Development. Glad to have you today, Honorable.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let's start with the planned protest tomorrow. I mean, we have Independence Day celebration tomorrow, and it has been planned to coincide simultaneously at the same time. Isn't it ominous that they're having that protest the same day as our celebration, big day of the year?
Well, thank you very much again for having me, and wherever you are watching me from, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, Nigerians all over the world. Yes, of course, it is inherent in every Nigerian. It is a constitutional matter which has guaranteed every Nigerian the right to ventilate what he or she finds possibly offensive or what he considers not appropriate. He has that right guaranteed by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to ventilate such and let the authority knows how he or she feels. But then, with every right comes responsibilities. It's not too long ago we experienced protest. It was called hunger protest. And I wouldn't know if the current organizers of this protest has really taken a cursory look on what actually transpired in the last protest. What were destroyed, lives that were lost, and what they gained, if not really recounted on those, I think it will be a misnomer for them to take to the street again to protest. The question should be the points that warranted you to protest in the last protest. Have you taken any meaningful steps to engage with the authorities? And have you also observed what the authorities are doing or is doing when the protest instituted? And now that you would say, okay, since you have not done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of our demands, we have grounds to equally take to the street to protest. I mean, if you look at the economic loss to the nation as at the last protest, the lives that were lost, can those lives be recovered? And those that were actually fanning this ember of protest, where were they? The innocent soul, possibly these are souls, God knows, would have in one way or the other preferred critical solutions to our maladies in this country, were cut short as a result of misdirection by a few individuals.
Oh, okay. You did begin by saying that everyone has a right to protest. And then you said it is a misnomer to have another protest tomorrow. And I would like to remind you that one of the reasons why the organizers say they are going on protest tomorrow is that their demands in the End Bad Governance demonstrations have not been met. And so that's why they're going to the streets again tomorrow.
If I could recall vividly what their demands were, it was triggered along high prices of items in the market.
Especially the high cost of fuel.
Yes, but what exacerbated this? The question is government addressing these issues? Is government taking proactive steps in addressing these issues? I am a Christian, and in my Bible, in the book of Luke, chapter 14, verse 28, it says, which of you that intends to build a tower will not sit down first and count the cost? Talking about responsibilities, talking about consequential thinking in whatever you are doing. The question is, in as much as you have right to protest, which nobody will stop you, can stop you, but have you sat down to count the cost of actually going on this protest? That is my question. I am concerned about every life of a Nigerian that may possibly cut short as a result of ill thinking in the planning of this protest.
Okay, are you implying that because lives will be potentially lost during a protest, then it should not occur at all? It is the job of the security officers to provide protection to demonstrators in a democratic setting. So
yes.
Why are you pinning that responsibility on the people?
You see, doctor, let's look at it this way. Because a father cannot say because there is a fire service in a country, he or she or a parent must set his house ablaze because fire service is coming to quench the fire. But before the fire service comes, possibly some damages must have been done to your house, and it will take you a lot of effort to restore your house back to order. That is a question I'm talking about. Look at what transpired in the last protest. The NCC Commission's office that was looted, burnt down. It's going to take government additional effort to the detriment of the resources that should have been made available for even the Nigerians that are protesting, to make their life easy, to restore those infrastructures back. Okay, what about private shops, businesses that were looted? Have you asked those guys, have they recovered back to their feet in what happened? I mean, it was not the police, the army, or the security agents that looted those shops. They were Nigerians, a fellow protesters. So is that what we are trying to put back on track, for crying out loud? So somebody said, let me land on this thought, doctor.
Yeah.
Somebody said it will amount to mild insanity if we keep doing the same thing over and over and expect a different result.
Right. You're aware that there are Nigerians that only want to make their voices heard, and are not the criminal elements causing these problems or infiltrating protests and maybe destroying properties. So why should people that have a right to go out there to speak up, why should they not go out just because the government has not provided the security that is required in this kind of circumstances?
It should be organized.
Right.
We have the National Assembly. We have the People's House. Organize yourself. Come. There are relevant committees of the House that is geared towards addressing whatever challenges you may have. The Senate is there. Address it to your senator, address it to your House member, address it to the governor, but let it be in an organized manner. Read out your terms of reference, and we will take it from there. There are prescribed way of doing things and achieving results. It must not always be protests that may eventually end in destructions.
Are you aware that over 1,000 people are still being held by the federal government from that protest? What does this say about this administration? If
as a result of the protest they broke a law, they must pay for the damages. The NCC's office that was looted, that is a crime against the state. So, individual shops that were looted, that is a crime against the state. So if they are culpable by law, they must go in for it. Many of them are languishing in police cells. Who caused it?
So why do you hold people for about 2 months without trial? That is the question.
That is a very good question.
If you have evidence,
it is directed at the wrong person. It should be directed to those that are saddled with the responsibility of answering that question. The IGP is there.
One of the reasons why I'm asking you is that it's your party, the All Progressives Congress. You're a member. You talk about the National Assembly. You're a member. You're an authority. So what is the thinking of your government concerning this?
At this point,
are you disappointed to see that?
No, at this point, party is really inconsequential. We are talking about nationhood. We are talking about Nigeria. We are not talking about election. We are talking about building Nigeria. We are talking about making progress from where we were to where we need to be. It is not about political party. Election had come and gone. That is 2023 general election. We have the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria that is not presiding over parties' affairs, but over Nigeria. So that is the question. There are relevant people that are saddled with responsibilities that have answers to question. If people have been detained beyond the necessary prescribed by law, such people should be called upon and they should answer questions, because two wrongs will never make a right.
Talking about building the nation, the Senate president today was quoted as saying that Nigerians need to be patient and to be hopeful of the country. And he's also said that he's admonished Nigerians to have hope in the country. So many times in the past, we've had public officials talk about hope, talk about inspiration, ask Nigerians to hang in there. Do you think at this point that this is a false optimism that we're dealing with, because that has in a way stopped us from doing the actual work that is required to build this nation? Because you might be optimistic, but you're not doing the work.
I will disagree with you. You see, patience is a fruit of the spirit. It's a virtue that every single person must inculcate. Without patience, you can't really achieve much. And patience here is not about actually sitting down idly and waiting for something to happen. It's actually being consistent in doing the right thing, being patiently hoping that eventually what you are hoping to achieve in what you are doing will eventually come to fruition. The question is, what is government doing that requires us to be patient for it to materialize? That is the focus. That is where the focus should be. And that is where the Senate president drove his point to.
Right.
Nigeria should be patient. Okay, for example, let me zero in the National Assembly. The constitutional review. Before we went on the recess, we had initiated a process based on the Supreme Court judgment that gave financial autonomy to local government system. Nigerians need to be patient for there to be a legal framework put together by the National Assembly that would translate into tangibles that Nigerians will be reckoned with. Right. That is where the patience comes in.
We'll come to the Constitution review, but let me take you up on when you say doing the right thing. The Senate president said, and I quote, "Nigeria's brightest days are ahead of us. Together with unwavering belief, we will build a nation that our children and generations to come will be proud of." Do you see any of this on the horizon with the current behavior of this crop of politicians?
I see it, and I align with the Senate president totally. You see, there is somebody made a statement somewhere. He said, there is, even in the well, it is well. It depends on what you choose to see. Even in the midst of obscure darkness, what are you seeing? For crying out loud, Nigeria as we speak today is better than Russia. Is better than, is it which other country that is at war with each other right now? Ukraine.
Lebanon.
None of us will wish that Nigeria should be like Ukraine. No. Have you seen the level of destruction? It would take them maybe 10 lifetimes for them to recover back. But Nigeria is not there. 64 years after independence, we can still sit down and have conversation like this. It is something that practically we should be grateful for. And that is the resilience of Nigerians that the Senate president talked about. We have that quality. It's just that many a times we don't seem to sit back and reflect on the many blessings that we have as Nigerians. That spirit of resilience to withstand even the toughest situation where many other nations cannot withstand. That is what we have. We should thank God for it.
Nigeria might not be Russia, but you do know that we face severe security challenges all across the country. And that, inhibits, or it has impeded or continues to impede progress. You do know that.
Of course I do.
Yeah, so there's no comparison with Russia. We have our challenges. But let me take you up on the greatness that you talk about. Yes, Nigeria is a potentially great nation. But in order to reach greatness, you need a lot of hard work, perseverance, rigor, discipline, sacrifice. You have to look at the long term instead of the short term gains. Again, I'm going to ask you, because Nigerians do not believe that this present crop of politicians and the National Assembly members will take us there. Can you convince us otherwise?
Yes, they may be right. But one thing I need to let Nigerians equally know, that the 10th National Assembly has made several efforts. I'm speaking as a member of the National Assembly. I'm speaking as equally the Deputy Chairman of the House Committee on National Planning and Economic Development. I have seen the effort that the 10th National Assembly has put in place, which, by the grace of God, when materialized, will drastically move Nigeria from where we are to where we need to be. For example, I made mention of local government financial autonomy. Let us zero in on that, the import of that piece of legislation. What that means is that funds from federation account will move from federation account to local government system directly. The impact of that in the development of the hinterland and grassroots cannot be quantified. Then it equally means that it is not CIEC that will equally conduct election at the grassroots level. It is INEC, meaning that there will be some form of transparency and credibility in our electioneering processes. So there is so much. Is it the state policing that the 10th National Assembly is equally working towards to? It will create a whole lot of employment. It will drastically reduce the crime that you are talking about. If we have state policing, it will address so many misnomer in that direction. So that is where patience is still required. Where we are today, take it or leave it, sir, ma. It didn't happen just with a snap of finger. It took time. It is as a result of compounding issues, neglect from previous leaders and administration that failed in doing what they needed to do, that has made us where we are today. So it will equally take a lot of effort in navigating this ship in the right direction steadily for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 15, 30 years before we can now say we are on the right path.
I'm glad that you mentioned the failures of past leaders, including your party, the All Progressives Congress, which is ruling Nigeria today. What would you say to those that say that in about 9 years that your party has been in power, it has completely wrecked Nigeria? And Nigeria has been divided the way that we've never seen before in the history of this country.
It is not APC that is ruling Nigeria. I want to be quoted. It is not APC that is ruling Nigeria. It is Nigerians that are ruling Nigeria. Political parties just a nomenclature. Many of those that are in APC, many were in PDP. They are still the one ruling Nigeria. It is Nigerians. Let us place it where it belongs. It is Nigerians. And when you have unpatriotic Nigerians mounting the saddle of leadership, failing to deliver what ought to be delivered, that is where you have misgovernance. That is where you have hunger, poverty. But let me drive us back to where it actually began. Independence we had in 1960. We inherited a population of about 45 million Nigerians with a gross domestic product of 4.2 billion US dollars. Flip it to today, 64 years after. What is the population size of Nigeria? Over 200 million. And what is the GDP of Nigeria today? About 500 billion US dollars. Can we say we have made increase in the population size of Nigeria and in the GDP size of Nigeria? Of course, from that analogy, we can say yes. But can we equally say that the increment in the gross domestic product vis-a-vis the increment in the population of Nigeria is reflected on the prosperity of an average Nigerian? I will tell you no. But the question will be why? because many leaders who found themselves in position of authorities and governance fail to do consistently what they ought to do. They take the resources of this nation, they take it outside the shores of this nation, they develop other nations to the detriment of Nigeria, and they expect Nigeria to develop and be at par with other developing nations. And if you want to take the history, you can begin to point them.
Right.
From the governors to senators to House of Reps to even presidents.
Yes, there's definitely responsibility to be shared among the federal, the state, and the local governments. But trying to deflect from party, I don't think is a smart move, because the party in power makes the policies for a period of time, especially at a federal level where Nigeria, the federal government, is powerful. When you look at when President Muhammadu Buhari was in power, you know, he was not a PDP man. He came from the CPC. And the current presidents also came from Alliance for Democracy. So these are not PDP people. Again, it is the responsibility of the party in power to make policies, and that's what we are seeing today. So would you say that your party has failed and your government has failed?
I still stand by what I said. APC is an alphabet. It's a name, nomenclature. Write it and keep it here. It does nothing until somebody breathes life into it. Just like the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It is written in ink and paper. Keep it here. It does not have power until somebody breathes life into it. That is the point I'm saying. The person that breathes life into the letters that have been written, transform it into life. The question is, what breath are you breathing on it? We've talked about we have weak institutions. I differ with that statement. In Nigeria, we don't have weak institutions. Rather, we have weak men that are mounting strong institutions. Institution on itself cannot deliver anything until there is a man that is saddled with the responsibility who probably fell in exercising that responsibility. The IGP is there, but the entire police force is useless if there are no instruction given by the IGP. The EFCC chairman is there, but the EFCC commission is useless without an authority channeling the responsibility that is in the law to the officers to do their responsibility. The same way with civil servants, the permanent secretaries, they are all there. Somebody definitely must give direction and leadership. You talked about sacrifice the other time. I must zero in on it. Without sacrifice from our leaders and Nigerians, we cannot really make any headway in this country, no matter how we cry. We must be able to roll our sleeves with a strong sense of patriotism, say this is what it should be, and somebody stabs the ground to make sure it is done.
As an insider, how do we then make this happen? Because we often talk about it, but governments after governments roll over, and it's the same story.
Fantastic for that question. Thank you very much for that question. Holding government accountable, including me. I often say it. I am the deputy chairman in charge of national planning and economic development, where the Ministry of Budget and National Planning is under my oversight. And by extension, the budget office is under my oversight. There is a piece of document that is a public document called Budget 2024. How many Nigerians, how many of these people that are planning to protest have taken the pains, the sacrifice, the energy to download this document and even know what federal government has appropriated for their local government, for their state, for their community, for their constituency, for their senatorial district, and begin to hold whoever that is representing them accountable. You hold the ministry accountable, you hold the agency accountable to make sure that these projects are delivered in your community. That is how to hold government accountable. It's not protest. Many projects of federal government that possibly money has been released had left hanging there because nobody has taken responsibility to see to it that those projects are done. That is how to hold government accountable.
Let's talk briefly about the Constitution review. How important is that? Because we have been seeing a lot of disagreements between different parts of the country on the structure and the foundation of the country. How significant is this review?
Yes, in the 10th Assembly, I am a member of the Constitutional Review, and so far we've had series of meetings, series of engagement, and I must tell you that away from what Nigerians have possibly witnessed in the past about reviewing the Constitution is different in this particular time.
Okay.
We've had situations in the past, maybe in the 9th, in the 7th, in the 8th Assembly, where such responsibility was carried out, but it ended up in total fiasco. That is because they failed to carry along the critical stakeholders, especially the state houses of assembly. But in the 10th Assembly, even when we were inaugurated, we deemed it necessary to invite all the speakers in the different houses of assembly to equally be a part, because these are critical stakeholders in the review of the Constitution. And in every bit of the Constitution we have anticipated amending, we equally share with them what the National Assembly is thinking, what Nigerians are thinking, and they should equally think in this direction, especially the local government financial autonomy. We brought them into the foray, and they equally buy in with us. That is where Nigerians equally have a role to play, man. Now, when the National Assembly have finally presented the proposed reviewed items in the Constitution, and it is passed into law, it requires to take majority of the state houses of assembly to do the same. And if your state, your governor sits on the speaker and mandate the speaker not to dance in tune with the collective development of Nigeria, and you are sitting down there, then you as a citizen, you are failed in your responsibility. Because this is not the first time there have been an attempt to review the Constitution that will reflect the yearnings of Nigeria. But many state governors sit on the state speakers and said, no, it will not all go well because of selfish interests. And sad enough, citizens of those states are not even aware that this is to the detriment of their collective development, of their collective patronage. The citizen must be awake, must be alive to their responsibilities as citizens to keep government in check. If not, government officials have that tendency to live just as if nothing is happening.
Honorable Clement, Jimbo, thank you so much for joining us on Arise Prime Time.
Thank you.